Hey, what's up YouTube? Rowan here, and this video is for anyone looking to improve on their forehands. Last week, Ronan reached out to Reddit Ultimate looking for tips and tricks on his forehand, so I reached out, we connected online, and he allowed me to share his breakdown and our follow-up conversation with y'all on YouTube. If you're interested in one of these deep dive breakdowns and follow-up conversations, head over to excelultimate.com or check out the description. All right, Ronan, we're going to dive into the side-by-side breakdown first. Couple things that I really like to see. First off, they're queued up for the release. So as you see here, pretty similar in terms of a lot of the shapes. The off arm looks very similar, and even in terms of like this angle here from the throwing arm, everything's looking good. Your torso is facing the camera, which we like to see, and especially when we open up some hucks. So all in all, I think we have a great base here. Lower body's kind of working together too. And I like the timing. Again, if we go frame by frame, kind of as soon as this right heel hits the ground, this is going to start both of our throws to come forward. That's kind of like a nice cue. So all in all, great start, great structure. Couple things we want to talk about is from this point, if we move forward, you're going to notice that from the same kind of stance, all of a sudden, a couple of frames later, your disc has kind of stayed in this spot while your elbow drops, and then they both come through at the exact same time. Whereas my elbow has also dropped, similar to yours, a little bit lower, but that's not too urgent. But the disc, instead of dropped with the elbow, is kind of lagging behind. And that is our first cue for you to add a little bit more distance, is you want the elbow to lead this disc. And instead, if from here and we both throw, now you're essentially kind of pushing this disc forward, and you're going to lose distance kind of pushing. Whereas I'm pulling this disc forward, and that's going to add some acceleration. So that's the first cue. We're going to try to get that lag, and you'll see kind of here as it comes forward, I'm still pulling, where you're kind of in a pushing motion, and that's going to cut down on some distance. A couple small things here. Yeah, everything else honestly looks pretty good. But again, the more lag and tension you can kind of get on that disc coming forward, the more power you're going to get. Now, the second thing, which is really interesting, is this frame right here, from here to here. It's a little bit blurry, but we can see that as everything for me is coming through and you at the same time, my wrist is going to kind of really follow through the disc there, and yours is going to stay a little bit straighter, and I'll explain. So right here on this release, your arm is a little bit, your middle finger's in line kind of with your forearm and wrist, where mine is just kind of broke a little bit. And any follow through on the wrist is really critical for distance. I can almost throw 40, 50 yards just with like a little wrist snap using this whole range of motion. So again, from this part, I almost follow through this way with my wrist, where you kind of stop your wrist right after the release and it just kind of falls back. So again, if you just really commit to almost following through with the wrist and getting a little bit more range of motion, I think that will also help some distance. So it's coming down here, really follow through, and you'll notice a couple of frames for me, my arm is still kind of out here while yours is already dropped. Again, what we want to do is we want as much power going this way with the disc on these hucks. Of course, there are times to drop your arm and get touch, but when we're adding this distance, now is not the time. Okay, great. Those are your two cues for now, is really follow through with that forehand and see if you can get that disc to lag behind. that would be a great start. And the last thing on this back angle that I want you to focus on is we're both cued to throw the disc on the same frame, but you're going to be moving a lot more and early than me, which is a great kind of concept. If you ever want to huck in game, the more efficient mechanics you have, the easier it becomes. So, you don't want a long wind up or a long time to throw, or else a mark's going to get in the way or your progression is going to be off. So kind of the faster you can go from stance to huck is the better. So I used to bring this right foot back to add some distance, but lately I kind of start even and just move up. Again, that's just something that's going to help you huck in games. The only cue I want you to practice on first is if you look right here, you're going to notice you're actually leaning back and I'm kind of leaning over my disc. And what's going to happen here is when you're leaning back, that means you're going to compensate and your mechanics are going to be kind of going up. Where what I do is I bring everything forward, and if I want to throw higher, which you have to do on a huck, I just adjust the angle of the disc. So all of the momentum is going forward, and it's an angle that gives me the height. Whether you're using that mechanics, that's actually going to cut back on your distance. So kind of get over this throw and drive it forward and keep playing with the nose angle and the edge angle till you get something that can give you the trajectory that you need. I love the release here. A lot of players have a tendency to kind of, turn the disc over and it kills and dies off left. You do a good job keeping it kind of IO and flat the whole way. That means I like that release, which is pretty good. And yeah, other than that, a lot of similarities in the two forms. You have your 3 cues: lag the disc behind, follow through with the forehand, and stay over that disc. Don't lean back. So we're going to follow up on a call, chat about those, and keep working, and we'll see where we can go with your forehand. I'm Rowan. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I'm actually Ronan.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Close. It's not bad. One letter. So
Mhm.
yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself before we dive in.
Oh well, I'm a junior in high school right now. I play a high school ultimate right now with my team, I guess, Pacific Collegiate School.
Cool.
And then I'm also kind of working through I have a travel team, I guess, Gold Rush.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Oh,
I play YCCs. So
yeah. What city is your high school in?
oh, it's in Santa Cruz, California, but I play up in the Bay. So
Okay. Oh, got it. Okay, very cool. Yeah, I know some of those California YCC teams. Which ones you play last year, and which one you going for this year?
well, last year I played for Aftershock in U17, and this year I'm playing U20 for Red Dawn.
First off, shout out, put yourself out there looking to get better. That's like really cool. And I think that is a great sign of like work ethic. And yeah, so shout out for going for it. I saw a lot of good comments, and then I'm like, well, this is something that I love doing. I do this professionally, and I'm like, yeah, let me just reach out and then I'll do a little bit of a throwing academy breakdown. Yeah, any questions on these 3 goals?
Okay, so first of all, I think I was told by my coach, which is my dad as well,
Yep, of course.
that it's bad to have like a follow through across your body with your whole arm.
Totally.
Does
That is
that
very true.
does that play into like the whip motion where you want that follow through, but you want it like in the smaller
Yep, let me get you
right?
back here. It's absolutely correct. Good coach. Good coach, good dad. So this is the fine details of the thing.
Yeah.
If you are throwing that forehand, right, and you follow through like a throw, what happens is your body naturally,
Mhm.
right? That's great coaching, knows what he's talking about. Naturally, the disc is going to start to turn over. So what we actually want to do, that's why like I still use kind of palm up as a cue, even though it's kind of a hybrid. But what happens is when you release the disc, you still want to like release it forward
Mhm.
here. And it's not so much as that throw, it's more of just because you're holding everything back and then everything just like snaps at the end.
I see.
So your dad is completely right. You don't want to throw a frisbee, but you do want to kind of give it a little bit more pop with that wrist. If the disc starts to like keep turning over, maybe you're overcooking it a little bit, and you might dial it back. But just kind of go out there and see if you can just drive it a little bit more forward before. And if you see a lot of my throws, like I do come down because I think touch is really important. But if you're talking max power, I can show you kind of a Jimmy Mickle one and Valeria Cardenas too. They're both like here when they're throwing the full field stuff.
That makes sense. Yeah, now I'm like starting to connect the dots. I used to have a problem with my throws going way too far IO,
Yeah.
and that might come from my wrist not following through enough, I think.
Which I honestly think that that's kind of good. You know, I think being able to control that angle, and one thing that I always coach is go the opposite way, and so you can like feel the entire spectrum, and then you can have control over that IO huck the whole way. There are going to be some hucks you want a little bit more OI. So yeah, I think play with that follow through and find a happy medium. One thing I will say with like the throwing academy, anytime you make a small change, you are going to usually see like a little dip because it's not normal. But then in the long term, we're trying to elevate your ceiling at the end. So I just wanted to show that one point is we both did a great job. You have a great job getting that elbow back. A lot of people are stuck here, right? So I shout out for your mechanics already so advanced. From here, it's almost like you want this disc to like rotate around the elbow because we want more like range of motion. The more range of motion, of course, the more power. So what happens is I do this, and my teammate Johnny Malks does this a lot, is once we're back where we both were, the elbow comes kind of forward, but the disc stays behind everything because everything wants to pull until the very last second. Elbow comes, wrist comes, middle finger finishes. So it's, and you can feel this out. I shot a video. Maybe I'll send it to you tonight. I was at the field. If you can you can go 20%, and if you just keep the timing right, where it's just like all of a sudden at the end, the disc has to just like pop out of your hand. You can see some teammates might do this naturally, where it's like it looks like they barely threw it, but it just like pops out. And it's like, whoa, that's when you get this timing right, where it's like elbow, wrist, kind of, and then the wrist like follows through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just honestly get out there. You don't even have to do this at 100% power. Just like start to see if you can feel all of a sudden the disc like pops out.
Yeah. Okay.
And the last thing I had was like, if you had a disc there, I was just curious on the grip. I know that was something that came up in the comments and something I just had a kind of a breakthrough on. Yeah, that looks great. Okay.
Yeah.
And it looks like, so the breakthrough I had was a lot of people are saying like middle finger on the belly and it slides onto the rim. But I actually kind of overlap the rim and the belly about like 70%, 30%. So I'm like actually in that crack.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Is your middle fingerprint like in the crack itself, or is it fully on the belly, like your middle fingerprint?
It's sort of like at a 45-degree angle between, like right in the crack.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I think like that's something I found in kind of through disc golf. I've been studying a lot of like the disc golf mechanics and yeah, so I think the grip looks great. The slow-mo wobble, I really wouldn't even worry about that too much, but
well, I think a lot of times I try and copy exactly what other people do, and it doesn't work out because like physiologically we're all different, right?
Sure.
So like I have a cousin actually, and he'll outthrow me every time. And he's a much longer person than I am. I'm like 5'3", like very short wingspan.
Yep.
And I think it's just interesting to see how throwing is very individualized, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah.
It is, yeah. It's super special. I think that like, yeah, even some of my teammates, we all have like a little bit of a different, you know, style, so to speak. That
Mhm.
said, I really think like an individual style comes with everybody, but like the mechanics of how you actually and efficiently throw really far is
Yeah,
something that hasn't really been talked about too much in ultimate frisbee. There's tons of content in disc golf and stuff, but yeah, I think there, in my opinion, there's like a mechanical way to do it the right way, and then an individual style of like, you know, the levers or the mobility, the strength. So
hmm
yeah, I would just honestly really work on that timing where again that disc like lags and then pops off the hand. And then yeah, maybe in a month or so, shoot me another video and we can kind of go from there.
great. That sounds awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for your help.